Today we're in Nuremberg, at the Nuremberg rally grounds, the site of 6 huge rallies that were held here between 1933 and 1939. We're going to take a look at the sites, we're going to take a look at the details of some of these places like Zeppelin Field and some of the other sites here at the rally grounds in Nuremberg. The National Socialists had been holding rallies since 1923, but in 1933 things stepped up a notch when Hitler declared that Nuremberg would be the centre of the Reich rallies from that point on. So as I said, today we are at the Nuremberg rally grounds. Now when you come to this site, it is actually made up of several different kind of sites within the rally grounds. And to start with, we have just come over here to this place. This is a spot called Podium. Now this is the site of the original rallies that the National Socialists held here in Nuremberg. This wasn't built for those rallies. This is actually the monument for the German soldiers who fell in the First World War, but the Nazis decided to use this as a symbolic place to hold their original rallies. Now this was the focal point of those rallies, and there are some photos of crazy amounts of people here, hundreds of thousands of people in this field behind me. So you can see this goes right back, and originally there would have been like grandstands and people here, hundreds of thousands of people, with this spot here being the focal point of the rallies. So this is where the original rallies were held. From here they moved over to the larger section, the more commonly known part of Zeppelin Field, but this is where the original rally was, right here. The monument itself was built in the 1920s following the First World War. But right here, so Hitler himself would have been somewhere around this area. He would have been raised up on a platform of some sorts. A common theme when you see him do things, the same when we get around to Zeppelin Field, is about him being raised up higher than everyone else, so everyone had to look up to him. But he would have been right here in front of the First World War monument, right here at Podium. Right, from here we're going to move over to another section of the rally grounds. Now we've moved around a little bit now, just a short distance from where we were before, to a building called the New Congress Hall. Now there was an old Congress Hall just near to where we were at the start of the video, but that wasn't to Hitler's liking because it wasn't big enough. It only held about 15 to 16,000 people. And so the new Congress Hall was built here. This building was designed to hold 50 to 60,000 people, so a lot more. Now you can see behind me, this building is huge. It goes all the way up and it goes all the way round, and I've got some really cool B-roll shots that obviously I'll be sharing into the video to let you have a real look. But this was the new Congress Hall building that was here. The idea being that Hitler would hold his big meetings, conferences and give speeches inside this Congress Hall. Now, I mentioned about how big this building is. One of the first things you notice is it almost has like a kind of spooky, intimidating type feeling to it. And that's quite deliberate. It was deliberately designed like that. The architecture here was designed to be intimidating. And when you walk around the edge of it, it really reminds you of something like the Colosseum, based on the same kind of reasoning, something that was built to be intimidating to people and really have that feeling of power. It was deliberately designed in that way. Now when you come in underneath those arches that we could see from outside, under here, it looks like it goes on forever, and again it was designed like that. It was designed in such a way to create that illusion of size and power and a feeling like it is just endless. You also can see these huge structures. They're covered over with stone now, but actually these were designed as the doors. These would have been the doors where people would have gone in to the Congress Hall. To give you an idea, that is probably 20 feet high, something like that. It is absolutely huge, and again, that feeling of intimidation and design is really fitting. Now, one of the things you might notice when I'm talking about this place is I'm using a lot of words like should have and would have been designed for. Well, there's a good reason for that, because as much as it was designed for these purposes and with these things in mind, it actually never fulfilled its use. It was never used in that way. And if we head round inside, we can take a look and see why. So we are now inside what was supposed to be the new Congress Hall. And as you can see, it looks quite different inside than it does from the outside. From the outside, it really gives you the impression that it is a finished, complete building. But this is the inside, and as you can see, it is far from complete. There is no roof, there's no kind of interior at all. It's really just the external shell. Now, the idea of this building was that it would have been a huge kind of sort of conference area for speeches, and right in the middle, in the roof, it would have had a huge ceiling roof window. The idea of that was that the place where would have been positioned for Hitler to give his speeches was positioned in just such a place where at a certain time of day the light would shine through that roof and illuminate that podium, almost like a divine light. And the plan would have been that he would have given his speeches at exactly that time to create that illusion when he was there giving his speeches. Now, mainly due to the war starting, this building was never finished. Of course, at that point they had other things to focus on. But this would have been the new Congress Hall. So they have this picture here that shows what the hall would have been like, and you can really see it would have been an impressive structure. But that isn't what it ever looked like. Instead, it looks like this. So from here we're going to walk round to another part of the Nuremberg rally grounds, the bit that people probably will be most familiar with. That is the Zeppelin Field itself. Before we start taking a look around, we should probably touch on why this place is called Zeppelin Field. Now, there isn't a huge amount to it. Count Zeppelin, who designed the big Zeppelins, he landed one here in 1909. At that time, it literally just would have been a field, and it got the name Zeppelin Field, and it's been called that ever since. So probably one of the main features if you come here to the Nuremberg rally grounds is this structure right here behind me. This is the Zeppelin Field main grandstand. Now later on after the rallies, we talked about the initial rallies being over on the other side of the grounds. They moved to here at Zeppelin Field, and this field behind me, kind of over in sort of this direction, you can see there are kind of grandstands all around the outside of it. This field here would have held up to about 170,000 men in parades and, you know, kind of holding different sort of formal gatherings here during the big rallies that were held here. The grandstand behind me was designed to hold about 80,000 people. Now, of course, if you were one of the people who made it into the grandstand, that meant you were one of the more sort of important guests who would come to these kinds of rallies. Right there on the top, in the centre behind me, right about here, we're going to go up there, is where Hitler, the man himself, would have stood to give his speeches. And in very simple terms, the nearer you were to him, the more important you had to be within the Nazi Party. Okay, so here is that main grandstand. Now this seating area along the back, it would look slightly different back then. There would have been like pillars and stuff all along here. I'm going to add a photo into the video so you can see what I mean. There would have been some other decoration and some fairly ugly looking symbols on the top of this grandstand. But this would have been designed to hold about 80,000 people. This side, and you can see it's over on the other side there as well. This is the main sort of centre of the grandstand behind us, and there are some seats up on the top piece up here as well, and in line with what I said earlier, that would have been reserved for the most important guests and the senior ranking members of the Nazi Party here. And that little podium right in the middle at the front, the highest point of the grandstand, is where Hitler would have stood to give his speeches here. Right, let's head up and let's go and take a look at the grandstand itself. Okay, so we have come up onto the lower part of the grandstand now, and the podium here at the front, that is the famous location. That is the podium where the man himself would have stood and given his speech, with the rally grounds here in front of us. When we get up to the top, I think we're going to have a better idea of just the size of this grounds, but this is the fairly ominous podium where he would have given his speeches. So as you walk up the steps here to the top of the grandstand, you can see all the seats, or at least the seating area along the grandstand, where everybody would have been sat listening to the speech and watching the parades out here on the Zeppelin Field itself. Okay, so we're just up to the top of the grandstand now. There's still kind of like the backing piece behind us, but this is the top of the grandstand, and just behind us here, below me, that is the podium where Hitler himself would have stood and given his speech to thousands, hundreds of thousands of people here. Let's go and check it out. Okay, so just walking down to the podium, and if we step up here, and I've got to say, this is a pretty creepy feeling. It certainly isn't something I'm celebrating, standing in the footsteps of this particular man, but if we stood here, this is where he would have stood giving his speech to hundreds of thousands of people here on Zeppelin Field. I've got to say, it is literally unnerving being stood here right now. Wow. So I hope you guys found this video interesting, taking a look around the different sites of the Nuremberg rally grounds here in Germany. If you did enjoy the video, do me a favour, hit the like button. Think about subscribing if you haven't already. If you'd like to support what I do and continue my work on this channel, consider checking out my Patreon page. But in the meantime, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'm going to see you on the next one.